Okay, everybody, welcome to our webinar, Homeschooling High School, and particularly Self-Directed High School. And thank you for joining us. We have a good crowd here. That's wonderful. So maybe if you have a burning question, feel free to interrupt us and type in the chat box or the Q&A box, and we'll answer. And if you don't want your question answered on the recording, we can certainly leave it to the end of the video. Okay, so wait a sec, how do I move this along? Here we go. Yay. Okay, my name is Judy, and I am not a teacher. I am a child development specialist who homeschools. So I've had 20 years experience, and tonight I am so happy to welcome Elizabeth. And Elizabeth, I'm gonna just let you introduce yourself because you know more about you. Tell us who you are and how you got into self-directed facilitation.
Okay, well, great to have everybody here. And I started education as a classroom teacher, and then just needed a break and found home education and never went back. And out of becoming a facilitator, I just was taught by all of my students how to be a self-directed learner. So it's been nearly 20 years, and I've been a facilitator that long, and I've come to see how high school is so accessible through self-directed learning. And I'm really interested in talking about that and answering your questions and sharing stories if you want, because it's very successful.
That sounds great. And you have a private company that helps with tutoring and teaching about essays. Is that, yeah? And that's
I do. Yeah, I coach students and parents, and I'm a tutor for English essays, sometimes social studies when I'm brave. And what else do I do? Yeah, things like that. And I get calls and emails from people interested in registering in home education. And so I describe what I offer with the school I work with. Mm-hmm. That's Summit West Independent School. And even, you know, talk about the public system too, because I know something about that and home education.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, that's wonderful. So I thought tonight the format would be, I've put together some slides and I will babble on, but I would invite you, Elizabeth, to please interrupt me and correct me and interject to wherever you want. Okay?
Okay. Sure.
So, okay. So, so I've, my experience,
I know those people.
You know these. This is my group. So I never thought I would ever homeschool high school, because when you start off, you think, okay, I think I can do grade 1 and maybe I can do grade 2. And then the kids just don't want to go back. They think this is wonderful. So I cannot believe it, but I've pushed 4 kids through high school and another one on his way. So, and they've all been successful independent learners in their university programs. So we have new books out. We have the Homeschooling Handbook. There's a little bit in there about high school, but I hope to expand that for next year just to make it more accessible. So please ask questions. There's quite a few of us here, but no question is stupid. So we want to know what you want to know. And in doing self-directed education, you want to leave doors open as much as possible. So a lot of people will say, no, you can't get a diploma if you traditionally homeschool high school. And that's not true. You're not shutting doors. Absolutely not. So the future of education is not so much from teaching kids knowledge, skills, and attitudes, but more of a concept-based learning experience. So not so much specifics, but where kids can go deeper into what they want to know. And right now, these are your education choices for high school. 3 of these in these quadrants are all school controlled. So it's not so much where education takes place, it's who controls the the program, the resources, the assessment. All those decisions are either in the hands of a school, if it's online, or in the hands of the parent. And even in Alberta, we do have that further oversight where we're still under a school authority. That's been set up for 30 years. But hey, it's better than Germany. So if you want to go all the way to grade 12 through home education, you absolutely can. There's a little section in the home ed regulations that say that a child can apply for marks and credits by presenting their coursework to a principal, and the principal can approve it. So if anyone tells you, oh no, you can't home ed traditionally through high school, yes you can, and yes they can get a diploma. Okay, I'm not going to talk about this. Okay, so choices. There's lots of reasons people choose home education, and you know what, more and more through high school it tends to be bullying or special needs not being met. There's all kinds of reasons, but everyone's different as per family. So when I first came to high school, I was totally confused. Oh my gosh, I was totally confused. Thank goodness I had a mentor. But someone explained it to me like high school's a buffet. So grades 1 to 9 is, yeah, you get every course, every grade. But once you get to high school, there are some things that are core, but there are a lot of different alternatives. So if you still want to do self-design high school, you still fill out a home ed notification form, because technically you're on the traditional side. You're not on the school side. So you fill this out, and then you still have to fill out course proposals, because high school is course-based. It's not so much grade-based, but course-based. Is that right, Elizabeth? Would you say that?
I would say that for us, I'm not sure that other areas, I don't know that other places request proposals. So I can't speak for the broad groups that offer self-directed high school.
Oh, okay. Well, it's been my experience that, yeah, that's the way to go, is we do a course proposal and then a course summary. And I call them
the proposal is an extension of the program. So it really it defines those individual courses. And because it's credit attached, it requires certain content requirements and what other details? Some subject specific depending on the grade. So it's really important for the teachers to see that everything's being met. So at the end, the student doesn't submit work and the question is, well, this isn't enough, or being told that they have to do more. It's too challenging. So proposing it is a good idea.
Yes. So in the learning plan with the 22 outcomes where it says read for enjoyment and blah, 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 it gives you a tiny little space. And that's okay to fill out for grades 1 to 9. But once you propose a course, you need a lot more space. So it's kind of another a page attachment. So like I said here, right? So I would fill out the learning plan for, say, grade 10. And if we're doing English 10-1 that year, then I would say in this square here, I would say, see attached course proposal. And that way they know to look for a more detailed proposal. Okay, I'm going to go through some of these things that aren't applicable. Now, a high school diploma is a it is a nice thing to have, but it's not necessary for pretty well all the institutions, post-secondary universities in Canada. I've checked. They don't need a diploma. They do need 5 grade 12 subjects in the course. So that could be one route. Maybe your child doesn't want a diploma. Maybe they just want to get somewhere. And so they're just aiming to get those 5 cores, and they really don't care about comm or phys ed or career and technology studies. So that could be one way to go too. So like grades 1 to 9, there's 3 program types. There's 100% traditional. There is shared responsibility, which is part parent, part school. And it depends on course credits, on how much is shared and how much isn't. So the shared responsibility in grades 1 to 9 is 50%. The school must teach 50%. But in high school, it can only be 20% up to 80%. So it's it can be a split 20-80 either way. Okay, we have a question. She says, I'm just going to throw out my questions before I forget them. The house is pretty distracted. Work experience, is this a thing? Is the paperwork involved just not worth it? Oh, now, I don't know if I can answer work experience because it's my experience that this has changed. Elizabeth, do you want to add anything?
I think, yeah, it's really up to the school whether they permit it or not. And as for the paperwork, it does require acknowledgement from the employer that the student is a student and working for credit. And there are evaluations. So the student actually has an experience of being in a real workplace where their work is attended to, and they have conversations with their boss around how's it going. So I think it's a wonderful thing to do the paperwork. I'm not sure what everyone else does. I know what I do. It's about 4 pages, and it's an inspection of the work site for safety. So that's all covered by the school. So it's really worth asking first, wherever you're registered, what it looks like.
Right. Yeah, and those requirements are from the government in the Guide to Education, right? Or they're...
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it is worth it for sure. I mean, if your child has a job, and that's the thing about self-directed high school is we don't want any shortcuts. We don't want to skip anything, but what your child is already doing, can you turn that into credit? Right? So because they're learning through what they're already doing. Okay, thanks. So 100% school is usually online or paper-based correspondence, but that is school. That is not self-directed high school. That is school in the home. So here are your options. You can either go the home education route, meet the course outcomes, get the 100 credits under Section 6 and get a diploma, or a lot of people choose not to go that route and just complete their 12 years of education under the student learning outcomes for those home education, and they don't get a diploma. Or they can go the school route, either through online classes and same thing, get credits and diploma. So there's lots of ways to do it. And the diploma can be awarded on all 3 of those programs. Absolutely. Okay, I'm not going to talk about this. So tonight we're going to not focus on online because every school board will talk about online in their spring open houses. But you will not hear about this option, probably. I haven't heard about it in last spring's open houses because it's just not talked about. So, like I said, you can either do parent ed for parent home education for marks and credits, or not a diploma, and just finish the outcomes by age 20. And these are the 22 outcomes. They're the same outcomes that kids in grade 1 to 9 get who are home education. Okay, and I have a lot of duplication here. Okay, the magic age is 19 years. So at 19 years, children can write the diploma exams without having a course mark. Right, Elizabeth?
I was reading Jessica's question. Go ahead. What did you say? I got distracted by Jessica's long question.
Oh dear, we have another question. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, that's okay. What did you say, Judy? I'll listen again.
Okay, here. Okay. Can we talk about exam writing options? My school board says I can write there, but the environment is not ideal. I've started driving to Cochrane Library and paying a fee for each exam, but my kid is taking a heavy load. My facilitator will totally wonder. Okay, so I guess we'd have to know, is this a course taught by the school, or is this a parent-directed course?
I think it's an ADLC course, and it's tricky with ADLC because the facilitator has to do the supervising, or you have to find some teacher, certificated teacher, to do that. Okay. So that's why the library is good. They're professional. The Calgary Library does the same thing. They'll supervise exams, but it's very restricted. Mm-hmm. And you have to book well in advance, and who knows when they're going to write an exam.
I didn't know the library did that.
Yeah, I checked into it for a student, but it's tough.
Yeah. Now,
paper. Yeah.
Okay. But some school boards do accept proctors. So if you assign a proctor in the fill out forms, I remember one school board we did that with for the PATs, I think.
Okay, we did that. That's something we used to do, and we still do it.
Yeah.
Although very few home students write PATs anymore. It's a real minority.
Right.
So, yeah. I supervise exams. So, Jessica, maybe you and I ought to talk about some ideas.
Yeah, there you go.
Later.
And I think it depends on the school, what their policies are regarding exam writing, because they're all different too.
That's
right?
Yeah.
So those are questions people can ask in the spring. Okay, so back to, so children who are under age 19 have to provide coursework. So all their high school courses are a combination of coursework and exam, and same with grade 12 for the diploma exams. Something to keep in mind is, in home education, the parent provides the program but doesn't actually have to teach it. So you can outsource the teaching to tutors if we had enough funding to do that. But that is a possibility. If you don't like math, but your child wants to do math through parent-directed, you don't have to teach it. You can hire a tutor to teach the program or help them along if they're self-directed. Okay. Over age.
And I'm going to add there, Judy.
Yeah.
I just add that it looks like what Jessica's doing, maybe if you have your high school student, is that an ADLC course is available to any student, and it's under the parent-directed, because the school simply registers the student at the request of the family mm-hmm. to follow that particular course through ADLC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they don't get teacher help because it's parent-directed, right?
They do, though, because if I'm the parent and my student wants to do Math 10 with ADLC, I ask the school, register my student, please. And they do. And then my student has a teacher in ADLC, and there is no cost. There's no tuition. It's only textbook costs, and it comes out of your funding. So it is under parent directed. Isn't that odd?
Okay, that's new to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's way new.
But Judy, it's always been like that. The
Yeah.
only way to register an ADLC anymore is to be registered with a school authority. And that school authority helps you register with ADLC.
Yeah.
That's different from a few years ago, but now ADLC has Vista Virtual, and they're strictly online. You can get registered there without any school. They are a school, but ADLC is not.
Mm-hmm. Right. But wouldn't that be shared responsibility then?
You know, so there's the confusion. It
There is.
obviously should be, but it's not clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if that's the case, then the funding would be prorated, but it isn't.
Exactly. ADLC, that whole thing is a little unclear with the current messages everyone's getting from
Yes.
the powers that be.
Yeah. I don't know what happens at the funding level. I know what happens at the student family level.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll move on.
Yeah. That's specific. Not everybody's doing
Jessica,
that.
I'm not too sure, other than to, you can negotiate with your school to find a proctor, or, hire a certified teacher to supervise that. Whatever's convenient for you. I'm not saying homeschooling high school is cheap. Sometimes you just have to pay out of pocket for things you want because we just don't get the funding for it. So it's kind of, the way it is. Okay. Who supports parent-directed high school? I don't have Summit on here, but they do too. This is an old list. But there's
an update that, Judy.
I know. You know what? I am going to update this right now because
I'm here.
We absolutely want to support these schools because they believe in our students and we want to promote them.
So call it By Design, add By Design to the end of it, because that's the name of the program. And it's nice to see where the home ed program belongs. So when they, by law, any of these programs that aren't the school name really need the school name. So Wisdom is not Wisdom independently. It's Trinity Christian.
Right.
Yeah. The has a school. Mm-hmm. Willow has a school. It's really good idea to add who the school is for people.
Yeah, because these are the programs, whereas the programs are housed within a school. But generally, it's very hard to go for the big public trustee-run school boards. A lot of them do not do parent-directed home ed because traditionally there has not been the funding to provide the assessment for it. So they just don't want to be bothered sometimes. So this is what a detailed academic report looks like. I was gonna block out Travis's name. Darn, forgot that one. So what this is, it's a record of your child's academic achievements, whether it's parent directed or whether it's school online. This goes to the government, this goes on the transcript, and this is what the post-secondary and university see. And as you can see, they can't tell if it's home education or if it's school. It's all the same to them. So there's absolutely no stigma if it's parent-directed. And same with the transcript too. It has a school code on it so the government can tell which school reported it, but there is no, they can't decide who gave what. So that's good. Why don't more boards?
That's because the home education, Judy, the home education students would all get in sooner.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I love I don't, it'd be nice. Why don't more boards support parent-directed? Because it's a funding issue. I mean, the online courses are very well funded, very, very well funded, whereas parent-directed is not as much funded. So individual school boards make the choice whether to offer it or not. So it's kind of up to the parent to ask if they are. Once a child turns age 20, they are considered an adult and they are no longer funded through Alberta Education as a student. So they either have to pay full price for courses or they can study on their own and challenge the diploma exams. So they're kind of left out in the cold recently. So homeschoolers need flexibility. I mean, if you're looking at a self-directed program, you want to do the courses the kids need and get credit for the ones they don't need. Like maybe they've had a lifelong interest in writing and character development and plot development, and they've been passionate about that since the day they were talking. So they don't need to sit through a whole course that teaches them all this stuff again. So the beauty of self-directed high school, I think, is that they can bring their strengths to a course and brush up where they need extra help with, and they don't have to do the busy work. I think that's the brilliant thing. And they can just do what they need to and go on and get the course mark and write the exam. Okay, so I just slipped this in here. Homeschoolers do not want special privileges or shortcuts, but they want recognition for all the learning that takes place in a home and not just within a 125-hour course shell. Okay, so how do you get parent-directed resources? Well, there's a lot of resources out there. There's all those listed right here with the libraries, with the internet, with what's out there. You can just do amazing stuff for courses. Mm-hmm. Some of us have done more of a co-op. So if you can get a group together of, say, teenagers, some groups hire a teacher and split the costs. Some groups have co-ops where the parents take turns teaching. A lot of times the kids lead, which is very good for leadership skills, good experience for later in university. And that's one way to do things. And it's a lot more fun because teens like social experiences. Absolutely. So how do these courses get assessed? So generally the parent and the student get together and decide how to assess these courses and what should be their marking scheme. So they submit a mark, and then the mark is submitted to the school facilitator and the principal, and then they approve the mark. So according to Alfie Cohn, he says that most self-directed learners tend to assess themselves pretty honestly. Like 90% do it honestly. 10% maybe not. So I know, this may be uncomfortable for some schools, but it's kind of nice. I found a lot with my own experience with my kids when I asked them, what mark would you give yourself? They often under gave themselves a mark. How do you say that? Sort of underestimated. So they were modest. How's that? Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so let's go through each course, and I'll kind of give you a hint of how you could possibly do this, because that's a hard part. You look at those courses and you think, oh my gosh. So when my kids took Chem 30 online, they had a lot of assignments. They had 36 assessments. And when they did it themselves, they had 9. So they read the whole textbook. They taught themselves the concepts. They worked through the chapter questions. They write the exam bank unit tests in the final exam, right? And then they go write the diploma exam. So maybe there's not so many, it's more university style where they have not so many little picky assignments, but they have fewer bigger ones. And that is university. In university, they may have 3 major assignments: a midterm, a final exam, maybe a mark for lab work. But it's a lot less. It's not so much that they miss a lot of things. So it's more that post-secondary style. Okay, so each high school course is 1 to 5 credits, and each credit should be 25 hours. So a 5-credit course would be 125 hours. And then around each grade is about 35 credits. If you want a diploma, that would be 3 grades, 100 credits. And there's lots of planning sheets to help you with that. The core courses are English Language Arts, Social Studies, Math, Science, and Languages. And this kind of shows you the stream on where they go. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that one. How long does it take to do? About 1.5 to about 3 hours a day for the course, and then the options would probably take more time, depending on what they're doing. A lot of people pair science with social because the writing and the math complement each other. It's not too much writing, like social and English together. And then the winter, they might do English and math, or they might do English and science. Now, everybody has to write the diploma exams for social and English if they want a diploma, whether you're parent-directed home ed or whether you're just a school in school. So there, you can write it 5 times a year. You can rewrite it. If your child didn't do well, they can just pay $26 and try again. And under age 19, it counts for 30% of the final mark, and over age 19 is 100% if the final mark is better than the combination of the course and final mark. The Alberta Ed is kind. They do take the higher mark. Okay, I'm not going to talk about that, or that, or that, or that. Okay, where do you get curriculum? I think you still can purchase course materials through ADLC. I would actually phone ADLC and ask them how to do things now, because things have changed so much over the past couple of years. You could go through your board for discounts on some items. A lot of boards do offer discounts. Okay, so this is, yeah. Okay, so this is how you actually do a course. So you register in traditional, you print off Alberta Ed outcomes, or just be aware of where they are on the computer. You can prepare the bookends. So that's the course proposal, which you would put in for your education plan. And then your child does the course, however you and your child has planned it out. And then you can provide a summary of what they learned. And then your facilitator will probably provide a final exam for the child to write and to provide a proctor. So that's how it works. So here's an example of a course proposal of one we did. I think this was for English 30, 5 credits. So we just wrote the details here, when we'd start, finish, what the project would be, what we would do, what resources we needed, and that's important because you want to get some of that funded, and then how we were going to do the assessment. And then we got the student to sign it because, hey, they're part of this. Got the parent to sign it, and then got the facilitator to sign it. And then they do the course. May not fit that time frame. Some years we extended it another 6 months to the next term just because things happen. And then you do the evaluation. At the end of the course, if you have all this stuff to turn in, then you write down what they did. The student writes a summary of what they learned, how many hours it took them, what the proposed grade would be, and then you submit that in along with the work. Okay, all right. I found that kids still need adult support. They need a plan for regular study because still kids at that age need accountability. Some regular check-ins on how's it going. Don't leave them alone for too much because you find out they've done nothing. So they really do. These are old proposals. So we did like one dual tag folder per course. So we kept all our paperwork in here, but now pretty well everything's online. These are your best friends. The keys are wonderful if you want to know what's in the course as per the Alberta Programs of Study. It's all in there, all in there. They are wonderful. And if you have a child who loves workbooks, the snaps are really good for, they're a little bit overkill on work. A lot overkill on work. They are work intensive, but if your child wants a good handle on those things, they can buy those things too. Okay, so I just wanted to go through, we'll try and wrap up by 8:30, but I want to go through each course and kind of talk about how we did it, just so people have an idea that this isn't too hard. So English is pretty well the same content for grades 10, 20, and 30. It just gets harder and more challenging as the grades go up. So in each grade, they study films, plays, novels, poetry, short stories, Shakespeare, and Canadian texts. And the skills build in each grade. So these are kind of the resources for English. And then grade 12 is more, there isn't really any resources for grade 12, I think.
Yeah, this is Viewpoints 12. It just is an extension of Viewpoints 11.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Okay, good. Yeah. And, you know, you just pick your novels and films, and there is an approved list from Alberta Ed of what they would suggest for novels, because sometimes it's really hard to know, well, is Pride and Prejudice grade 12 level, and, you know, is Animal Farm grade 12 level? So it kind of helps you decide what to choose. Viewpoints 12 is good too, and you can also get a lot of things online too, and through Alberta. And okay, so this was our comparison. This is an English 30-1 course we took online. It had 50 assessments. Whoa, no wonder my kids got lost. Whereas with through parent directed, they had maybe 15 things to do. Major, but 15. So it was a lot simpler, I found, for us. Now, social studies, you can do a more academic route or a more practical route. It's still all the same topics, but depending on if your child's a good reader, writer, in-depth thinker, they might want the more -1. And also where they're going for post-secondary. If they're going to, I know my child who went to science, he didn't need -1. He took -2, and that got him into science at university. So it depends on where they're going. So these are the textbooks for -1, and these are the textbooks for -2. Globalization is grade 10, nationalism is grade 11, and ideology is grade 12. Okay, I'm trying to see. Somebody raised their hand, and I'm trying to figure out how to answer that. Okay, sorry. Okay, moving on. Math. So math again is if your child is going into a STEM career, they're going to need the pre-calculus route. But if they're going into a more artsy career, they can do the -2 stream. And those topics too build on each other. So these are the textbooks for that. And this is kind of the progression on how kids can move through the math programs. There's at least 4 different streams here. Science. Everybody has to start science at Science 10 or Science 14. Actually, 10 and 14 will make up the 10 credits for a diploma in science. It's a nice intro to biophysics, chemistry, and earth science so that kids, you know, can decide where they might want to go or branch out later. Chemistry 2030, the topics build on grade 11 and 12. So here's the textbook. And again, the key is just wonderful. Bio 2030, the topics are independent. So I had one child, he was over age 19. He just took Bio 30 and done. He's out of there. He didn't take Bio 20. Okay, I think. Oh, great. Hi, Berna. Yeah, I think the chat works better than the Q&A. Where do you get textbooks? Well, you talk to Elizabeth. Other ways is Amazon, but some of the textbooks, like the in-demand ones like Globalization, are $170 for the textbook, which is crazy. I don't know why it's so expensive. I would go on Kijiji. I would also look at the University and Mount Royal bookstore because they're used bookstores. I was in there just this week, and they do take high school textbooks. So you could look it up online if they have a particular, you know, like inquiry into biology there. I've actually seen it there. So check around. Elizabeth has a good selection too. Okay. And then physics again, topics build on grade 11 and 12. So go on. CALM, career and life management. So this was really fun to do self-directed because it focuses on career, finance, and personal choices. And I think it could do a little section on anatomy and sex ed. This is a sperm bank, by the way. Isn't that cute? So I really like doing CALM because you can really tailor it to your family, your values, your beliefs, for sure. So for CALM, I think our kids they did a resume, they took a Myers-Briggs personality questionnaire, they did career profiles, they would go look at career fairs and open houses at post-secondaries. They'd make a budget out for first year university. They learned some skills in interpersonal communication, and they read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. So this came out to about 75 hours, which was 3 credits. So good course, but you could actually, you know, do it through your home. You don't have to do it as an online course. Now, if your kids are stuck and you can't help. So I had that problem. My kids did high school math. My math ends at grade 8. How do I help them? So you can hire tutors. You can host a peer-to-peer study group, maybe form that with some other high school students. There's a lot of online videos through Khan Academy, through Spark Notes, lots of good stuff on the internet. Don't let your child get stuck. And feel free to tap your facilitator's brain too. They have a lot of resources that you might not know about. Berna, do you think you could write in the chat box? Because I don't know how to. I don't know how to do the raise your hand thing on this. How do you access course modules? You can, a lot of teachers are putting things on the internet now. So if you Google Alberta and Science 10, you would get like course modules that people do. You could talk to your school authority because they might let you in to learnalberta.ca, which has a lot of things. And if you want outlines for particular courses, I can share what we used. Okay. All right. Here's something, so how to do options. This is what we did for food studies. So, for example, my daughter would make a cabbage pie, and she would take a picture of it, note what course it was for, what date, what subject, it was yeast products, and she'd take a picture of the finished project and also note the number of hours she spent cooking. So if you need to know what the outcomes are for courses like food studies, fashion studies, legal studies, it's all on Alberta Education. They post all the outcomes there. Okay, usually self-directed assessment. I tend to get my kids to do the exams in the key because I don't know how to mark things, so it's an objective way to figure out where they're at. The answers are in the back. The student can do exam bank on unit exams or final exam from the exam bank too. Ask your school board. How do they do options? Okay, so the CTS courses, they need 10 credits at the grade 12 level to get a diploma. Phys Ed, grade 11 and 12 is a good option. Art, French, they can do the Registered Apprentice program. There are lots of options available too. So foods for us was the easiest because everybody has to eat. So, and you know what? I think cooking is such a valuable skill. Like, I think learning to cook good home food is great. Same with Phys Ed. I think Phys Ed 10 is a core course, but they don't have to go on to 20 and 30. But, you know, if they want to, that's good. Work experience, too. We did volunteering at the food bank. That was really good. That was before we had to fill out all the paperwork. Special projects is such a treat. And this is where kids can really shine. And a lot of kids in physical high schools don't get special projects because they just don't have teacher resources to supervise. But there are lots of children have really intense, great interests, whether it's music or dancing or sports or whatever they're doing, may as well get credit for it because they're putting time into it already. So I would take a lot of pictures. We would make logs of their time. They would write some bit about what they learned through the special projects. And it was very nice. It's great, 15 credits right there. Art, really good projects there too. We did, some of my kids did art. Okay, so okay, so that's talking about school. We're not going to talk about school. Okay, another thing to do is flexibility. Like maybe you want to take 5 years to do high school. Maybe your child wants to get through it all in 2 years. Whoa. But they can do it. Absolutely, they can do it. They can, you know, maybe start at age 15 and do all grade 10 cores. Maybe age 16, they want to do all the extra stuff like Phys Ed and Comm. Maybe age 17, they go back to the cores and wrap those up or spread out those diploma exams. It's all very flexible on what your student can do. Okay.
Judy?
Yep.
I would add to that the freedom for the flow of the courses could be grade 10, 11, and 12 English, 10, 11, and 12 social studies, or math that is good if you don't have a gap like a summer holiday or a semester break. Mm-hmm. So courses that you want to take through to the end, you have all that freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Like one son of mine is doing all English and social right through, and he's not an online learner, so I can't teach him math. He can't go online for math, so I'm going to stick him into Chinook learning for the rest of his math and science. And you can do that. You have that flexibility. So he'll have all his English social, his comm, his phys ed, his foods. And then for math and science, he just finishes that up. Bang, 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 right, one after another. Now, he's not going to like that because, you know, there's not much break in between, but it's going to work for him, right? So it's gearing that flexibility for your individual learner on how they learn, whether it's through online or kinesthetic learning, and what their pace is. I mean, you can take a year to do a course. You can take 2 years probably. So you just want to get it funded by the time they're 20. But there is huge flexibility in self-designed high school. Now, if your child's not motivated, maybe get off the assembly line. Maybe they're not motivated to start high school right away, but they're funded until the day they turn 20 on that September 1st. So they still have till age 18, 17, 18, 19. Maybe their prefrontal cortex will develop a bit more, that they could settle down and become more serious, right? So when education becomes more important to them, maybe that's a time they can really, really, and then they just power through because they're motivated. It's a good time. This graph kind of shows you that. So the development of the prefrontal cortex here at age 17, it goes up in that final peak. And that's where, their self-control is at its best, their critical thinking, their decision-making. So some kids just aren't serious about buckling down to high school work until that age. Okay. Scholarships, they need course marks for grade 10, 11, and 12. So if you're considering, we'll just get the grade 12 courses, that's okay too. They'll get into post-secondary, but they won't get the scholarships for grade 10 and 11. Okay. Kids with special needs, I would suggest getting that final psych ed report around grade 12 because they're going to need that documentation for diploma exams, and also they need documentation within 3 years of applying for post-secondaries. So that might be a good time to do it.
Just a note there, Judy, about diploma exams. There's no longer a need for the psych assessment. A student can have all the time, although unless you're talking about accommodations, like, well, everything. I think a student can have whatever they say they need without that assessment now.
That's awesome. I think that is just amazingly awesome because those psych ed assessments are $2,000, right? So that can be a barrier for some families. But yeah. That's a nice change. We have a question. Does any school fund those assessments? I don't think those assessments are funded under home education.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, but check with your school authority. I mean, maybe, I don't know, but it's been my experience, they don't fund it unless you were in an online school, which is school. And even then, there's a waiting list of like years. So it's almost better to privately fund it. Yeah. But the good news is when they get to post-secondary, they get all kinds of supports, amazing supports. They get learning strategists, they get tutors, they get special equipment, and it all goes to your child. It doesn't get filtered out to the rest of the class. So it is very nice. So what is post-secondary really like? Surprise, surprise, they actually take attendance now in some classes. They never took attendance when I went to university. And it's not like high school where there might be 46 assessed items. Most courses only have a few, like I said, about 3 assessed items per course. And they're often major assignments, exams, or papers. And the exams are worth anywhere from 50 to 90% of the course mark. So diploma exams weighted at 30% is not really real world in post-secondary. And why exams are weighted so high is because they want to avoid cheating. So it's been my experience, my kids had to learn handwriting when they went to university because they had to handwrite exams. There were no computers allowed. So until professors get a little more accepting of digital equipment, that's what it's kind of like right now. Okay, I think we have another question. Somebody had a psych ed assessment done through U of A for $500. Whoa, that's great. That's really nice. U of A has special deals, so yeah, check them out. Very good. Okay, and I think that's about, so what kids do is when they're applying to post-secondaries, they fill out one application at Apply Alberta, and then any institution they apply for pulls the transcript from that. If it's out of province, they will request a transcript mailed directly, so that comes. Some colleges and vocational schools accept a parent diploma. So a lot of home education parents make a diploma, put down the courses, give a mark, and that's a parent diploma. And some do accept that. I find the big universities across Canada, like Victoria, U of A, UBC, U of C, U of Manitoba, U of Saskatchewan, McGill, Memorial, they all want the government transcript. It's, yeah, kind of like that. Okay, I think that's about all I have tonight. And we're running out of time. Okay, so let's take some questions. Anybody have any questions on the stuff we covered really fast? Anything you want to add, Elizabeth, while we're waiting? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm just waiting for people to write a question down. You've covered it quite thoroughly. I think it'd just be individual interests and needs that I could add anything to. Yeah. If anyone had a question.
I think it's really good if you're considering self-directed high school, is to sit down with a facilitator and plan out an individual program, right? Because
yeah,
it's like doing a map for your child on based on what your goals. Like maybe you want to take a year off to travel. Well, here's how you can fit everything in. So, and that's what you do in your first visit. If I would suggest you have your first visit in September too, because the year's short. You only have 4 months before that diploma exam, or, if you're doing a semester.
Yeah, and I would definitely say have your student at the meeting as well, because it's your students learning and they have ideas, and I always like meeting all of my students, and then certainly for a first planning visit, either if it's internet or phone, have their voice in there speaking to their interests and see where that goes.
Right, yeah. Yeah, because it's all about them, right? So to get them involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our question is, if your child doesn't know what direction they're taking when finished high school, what's the best way to begin or map out a plan for grade 10? Well,
I would say leave all doors open. And if your student is capable at the -1 level, that leaves all doors opened. So you'd have to think about strengths and challenges in their learning and what preferences they have, and know that, like Judy said, if not this year, maybe in 2 years down the road, they'll be ready for that harder math course or a more academic level. It's really going with your students' interests for now to start with the grade 10.
Yeah. I think what I really had, I guess if your child is more aptitude to a STEM career versus a more humanities career, right? So where we really had trouble was we didn't know what science to pick for whatever, because for engineering, you need physics and chemistry. You don't need biology, but for a bioscience, you need biology and chemistry. You don't need physics. So that was a little tricky. But what I found was you just pick a science, run with it. And if they need to pick up something later, which some of our kids did, they had to pick up a chemistry 2030, or they had to pick up a physics 2030. You can take that at Chinook Learning, and you can even take both courses in one semester. Now it's a little concentrated, but they recognize people want to just donate 4 months and pick up those courses, and away they go. So it's not really bad. You don't really make any bad decisions because they can always pick something up that they need later. Okay, more question here is, my son was hurt in grade 10 and wasn't able to go back to school. That was 3 years ago, and it's only now he's starting to feel well enough to try learning again. School is not an option, so this is super helpful and alleviates a lot of stress when you don't really know what to do. He'll be 19 in May. So if he's 19 in May, he should get on those courses. He really needs teacher instruction, right, Elizabeth, do you think? Because those are the ones that are, like, he's got a year of funding left.
Yeah, he has a year of funding, but I'm just wondering if he wants to head in that direction or upgrade somewhere else or just wait. So that was my question, if that's what he's choosing. Here's a question from Christy. Deciding placement between -1 and -2. So that's really about the -1 will get you to university in every course, and -2 will get you to college. -2 could get you to university if it isn't a required course, like social 30-2 in engineering. That's just fine.
Yeah.
So you have to know your student's ability. And if you're not sure and your student isn't sure, you could do an assessment for a placement. Does your student love reading and writing? Are they literary? Do they love Shakespeare? Is math just for managing money and in the kitchen? So it's just you and your student talking about, and having somebody in education understand too, maybe previous work. So if you're looking at grade 10, how was grade 9? How did that go? And what kind of marks or what feeling was there around math or whatever courses they took? And then go from there. And you can always try one level. And if it's not working, you can go to the next level.
Yeah. The one course your child absolutely needs for university is English 30-1. 30-2 will not get them there. But having said that, my English major, she got in with math 30-2, and she was smart enough for math 30-1, but she thought, well, if I don't need it, why am I taking it? And then my other two sons, who didn't need social 30-1 for engineering, didn't do it either, because definitely decide where they are. Are they more STEM focused or more humanities focused, maybe, or arts focused? Back to Berna's question about her son, who will be 19 in May. She says he does want high school credits, but might feel overwhelmed. All his friends have gone to post-secondary, so he feels like he's moving backwards. I guess, one of the things he could do too is just study the grade 10 and grade 11 courses, and like study now all those courses, and then just challenge the diploma exams when he's 20. Like study him now with a teacher while it's funded. But
spend a year, get funding for next year, because he will be 19 in September still. Check out some courses, see how it goes, maybe find a tutor and see where he's at. What I've been really impressed with over the years of meeting so many students is how much they absorb just because they're alive and learning. So you don't really know, your son needs to look at what he knows and then go from there.
Yes. I know a 19-year-old who just did English 30, read the key, studied the key, studied the key for social 30 and some of the textbooks, and did very well, just wrote the diploma exams without taking a course. Just did very well in the diploma exams. Math and biology, she took the grade 12 course and had to do a lot of work for math grade 12, but did it. So just, kind of started at a grade 12 course. So maybe just taking one course at a time and seeing, letting him feel successful with that one course. Maybe even Bio 30, because Bio 30 doesn't touch on anything else before it. It can be a standalone course, bio or social studies. Right? And social would be a good time to take that because there's 2 elections coming up. So. But yeah. Okay.
Berna, Elizabeth here. I work with students, and if you wanted to give me a call or have your son call me, we could. What would we do, Judy? I'm at homelearningconnections.ca. That's my website.
Yeah.
We can have a chat.
Elizabeth's great at planning things out.
Well, I can help people plan. I won't make plans for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, anybody else have any questions?
Sounds like we were helpful, Judy.
All righty, great. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. And Elizabeth, thank you for popping in here and letting us pick your brain and for all your knowledge, your 20 years of supporting families. It's great. I know my kids would not have done well in a traditional high school. I mean, they tried, dropped out at various times, but and then they got to post-secondary and it was so much different. So it's really doable and it's really great, and I hope more people know about it, how to do a self-designed program, because it truly is personalized education. Okay, all right, well, thanks, and everybody have a good January, and yeah, we'll see you next month. Our webinar is on homeschooling children with special needs and also managing family resistance. So thanks, Elizabeth, for coming.
Thanks, Judy, and thanks, everybody. It's been great.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.